Welcome to the Rice Porridge Around the World webinar. Before we start, let me first introduce our speakers to you. This webinar is jointly presented by a number of members from different IDDSI reference groups, including Hong Kong, Malaysia, Taiwan, and Singapore. By the end of this webinar, you will have better understanding on the types of kanji available, where kanji stands within the IDDSI levels, and why we need to be careful when people with dysphagia want to eat kanji. So let's get started. Rice is a staple food in Asian countries. Rice porridge, or also known as kanji, is a variety of such staple food that is very common in Asia. Basically, it is rice with water, and there are many ways to cook it, and they may look very different in different cuisines. You can find kanji in different Asian cuisines, such as Chinese, Malaysian, Taiwanese, Singaporean, Japanese, Korean, Vietnamese, and Indian food, and in many other places that I haven't named here. There are a number of qualities that vary across these different types of kanji. For example, the water to rice ratio, which will change the thickness of the final kanji, the softness of the rice particle, the consistency of the kanji, and the types of meat, vegetables, or other seasonings that we may add to the kanji. In many places, kanji is considered as a comfort food, a healthy food, and usually if you are sick, our parents, our grandparents would cook kanji for you because we believe that when you eat kanji, it is easy to chew, easy to digest, and it's supposed to be very easy to swallow. However, we also notice that kanji may pose a special threat to those who have swallowing difficulties because of its mixed consistencies. So in the next sections, we are going to introduce you some common types of kanji that we find in our regions, and we want to demonstrate to you how they look like when we perform the IDDSI test on these different types of kanji. We will also show you a couple case studies to highlight how kanji may affect swallow safety. So let me now pass the time to Chris from Taiwan to show you the kanji from Taiwan.
Hiya, I'm Christiane Xu. I'm speaking on behalf of the Taiwan IDDSI Reference Group. In this presentation, we will talk a little bit about the rice porridge in Taiwan. Well, rice porridge is considered as a traditional main dish in Taiwan, along with rice and noodles. The photos on the upper right are taken from a popular restaurant in Taipei. They serve grilled meat and veggies as side dishes, and you can choose the main dish from porridge, rice, or noodles in their self-service food bar. Traditionally, people have porridge for breakfast, but it's also ideal for when you need just a bite to eat. It's also considered as a food to settle the stomach. So it's a sort of home remedy for an upset stomach. It's been taken as to be easy to chew and to digest. So porridge has been frequently fed to young children, elderly people, and patients with dysphagia here in Taiwan. Porridge is a versatile dish. Vegetables, legumes, meat, eggs, and the spices can be added to it. It can be prepared either from raw rice or cooked rice. For example, my mom and my grandmother used to prepare porridge from the leftover cooked rice from the previous dinner. Well, we shouldn't waste any food. You can use a rice cooker, a porcelain or a metal pot, or even a microwave oven to prepare porridge. Nowadays in Taiwan, you can get porridge from a food stall in a night market. from a takeaway or a restaurant. You can even get frozen porridge from a supermarket or a convenience store. The video on the lower right shows the porridge served in the restaurant that I've mentioned before, just for you to have an idea about its consistency. The yellow chunk you see in the porridge is a piece of a sweet potato. In the past, it's been added to the porridge to save the rice. And nowadays, this dish is a kind of nostalgia for the elderly. So in this presentation, we are describing plain porridge that has been bought from a food store in Taipei. The porridge has been tested with the spoon tilt test, fork test, and the finger test at 3 different temperatures, 60, 50, and 40 degrees Celsius. The tests and the results have been recorded in the following videos. And this video shows the porridge at 60 degrees Celsius. So this is the spoon tilt test. Some residue on the spoon. This is the fork test. Nothing dripping. And this is the finger test. Very slippery indeed. Easy to be smashed. And this video shows the porridge at 50 degrees Celsius. So once again, spoon tilt test. Yeah, little residue. Fork test. Yeah, nothing dripping. And the finger test. Okay. And this video shows the porridge at 40 degrees Celsius. Spoon tilt test. Yeah, once again, some residue. Seems to be a little bit more than before. Okay, now the fork test. Nothing dripping. And now the finger test. Easy to be smashed, pretty much the same. In all three temperatures, there was little porridge residue left on the spoon in the spoon tilt test. A minimal leakage dripping and non-solid dripping through the prongs of the fork in the fork test. And the grains were easily smashed with fingers in the finger test. Although the results were similar in all three temperatures, the porridge seemed to be virtually thicker as the temperature dropped. Well, that's all. Thanks for your attention. I hope you have enjoyed our presentation. Cheers.
Thank you, Chris. The next presentation will be by me and Elaine from Hong Kong. The Cantonese-style congee usually starts with soaking the rice in water for at least an hour, and then we cook it with a large amount of water for a long period of time until the rice grains burst open. And you can see in the video, the congee is very creamy and smooth, and the rice appears to have melted into the liquid, and so the two are not quite separable. The Cantonese-style congee, when it is without any meat or vegetables, usually meets IDDSI level 5, minced and moist. Just be aware that sometimes Cantonese-style congee could be too sticky, and if you do a spoon tilt test, you can see that some congee may be stuck onto the spoon. So I'll now pass the time to Elaine, who will walk us through the IDDSI test with the Cantonese-style congee.
These pictures show how the Cantonese-style congee behaves when being tested. During the spoon tilt test, the spoonful of congee falls off the spoon easily with some sample left on the spoon. When being tested with a fork pressure test, the rice grains come through the prongs of fork easily, and it can be mashed with minimal pressure with a fork. This video shows how the Cantonese-style congee goes through the fork drip test. You could see the congee sits on the fork and only very little amount of it flow through the prongs of the fork.
Another popular type of congee in Hong Kong is the Chiu Chow style congee. As compared to the Cantonese style, you can see that with the Chiu Chow style, the rice appears still quite intact and can be separated from the liquid. We consider the Chiu Chow style congee to be mixed consistency, with the rice part being level 7 easy to chew, and the watery part at IDDSI level 0, thin liquid. The Chiu Chow style congee is not recommended for people with swallowing difficulties because of its mixed consistency nature.
The Chiu Chow style congee is another popular type of rice porridge in Hong Kong. You could still see clearly the rice grains separated from the liquid in this type of congee. During the fork drip test, the liquid can't be held on the fork and just flows through the prongs of the fork. Since the rice grains are still quite intact, most of the particles are not separated and do not come through the prongs of the fork during the fork pressure test. And when being tested with the spoon tilt test, although the spoonful of congee fall off easily and completely from the spoon, you could see that the sample is not cohesive and spreads considerably on the plate, like this.
Thank you, Elaine. Our next stop is Singapore.
Welcome to Singapore! In Singapore, you can find a variety of congee styles across different food stalls. Because of our multiracial, multicultural, and multi-religious heritage, Singaporean cuisine is influenced by various ethnic and international groups over the years. We have lots of congee options available in Singapore, such as the Hong Kong-style congee, which is thick and smooth, congee that has soft rice grains served in a visible pool of fluids, and also congee that is really just rice and side dishes soaked in a pool of soup. After an assessment by a speech therapist, patients with swallowing difficulties may be recommended to take a pureed or liquidized diet. To prepare pureed congee, regular congee is blended up into a smooth and lump-free consistency. You can buy any congee since the ingredients will be blended up later. Here we have a quick demonstration of how to prepare chicken porridge into a level 3 liquidized or level 4 pureed texture. It's already looking rather sticky. We failed the spoon tilt test here with quite a significant amount of porridge still stuck on the spoon surface. We will deal with the stickiness later, but let's pop the congee into our blender. If the porridge is too sticky, the blending process may not be very even and you may get lumps since it tends to stick to the sides of the blender or the blender blades itself. Additional soup stock or water can be added to facilitate the blending process. We didn't have this problem in our congee here, but if you do add water or soup in, do add it in small increments to avoid making the final product too watery. Very soon after, we have our nice lump-free mixture. Let's do a spoon tilt test and a fork drip test to make sure that this mixture meets the definitions of level 3 liquidized and level 4 pureed. This is a fail for the spoon tilt test, as you can see a thick coating on the spoon surface. This also fails the fork drip test since it drips through the prongs. Failing the spoon tilt test, especially, is a very common problem in preparing pureed textures. Blended food, especially carbohydrates, tends to be very sticky after blending up. We've tried a variety of methods to make the congee less sticky, yet thicker. So adding more oil didn't seem to make the congee less sticky, and it probably made it more unhealthy in the process. Adding more soup or water did make things less sticky, but it also watered down the consistency of the congee. We then attempted to save this watery congee by adding thickener to the already watered down congee, but this made the mixture sticky again. Our only successful attempt here was to add pre-thickened fluids using a gum-based thickener into the blended congee. Please share with us other recipes too if you have more solutions to this problem. To prepare an ideal level 3 liquidized texture, we prepared a level 3 moderately thick fluid using a gum-based thickener and added it into the blended congee. Here we added thickened water, but you could also add thickened soup for more taste and nutrition. Mix everything up to form a smooth and lump-free texture. This leaves minimal coating on the spoon during the spoon tilt test, but still drips through the fork prongs as we would expect for a level 3 liquidized texture. Similarly, to prepare an ideal level 4 pureed texture, level 4 extremely thick fluids were prepared also using a gum-based thickener and then added to the blended congee. This also leaves a minimal coating on the spoon during the spoon tilt test, and it also holds its shape and does not drip through the fork prongs as we would expect for a level 4 pureed texture. These are some experiments we've tried for a small-scale preparation, but we'd love to hear from everyone else if you have any tips and tricks for preparing a good level 3 and 4 diet texture.
Thank you. May I now invite our last group of speakers from Malaysia?
Changing scene to Malaysia, congee is definitely the food to go to at all time. Congee, or most of the time, we Malaysians call it as porridge, is available everywhere at any time and almost in any occasions. From hawker stores, dim sum restaurant, hotel buffet, and of course at home. The consistency of porridge in Malaysia, either store-bought or self-prepared, ranges between IDDSI level 3, which is liquidized, to level 5, mince and moist. The invincible status of porridge in Malaysians' heart can be shown through specialized restaurants who only sell porridge. Porridge is also available in fast food outlets. Seafood porridge, chicken porridge, fish porridge, century egg porridge, trio egg porridge, nasi air, bubur pedas, bubur lambuk, kanji, teochew boy, tong chok. Yes, this is how we Malaysians value porridge. Porridge in Malaysia is usually so plain, with different types of side dishes or free-flow condiments. Welcome to Malaysia to try our porridge. Porridge can be made at home, either with conventional rice cooker, pot on stove, multifunction rice cooker, or pressure cooker. To cook plain porridge, add 5 parts of water to 1 part of washed rice. Cook for 30 minutes and simmer for another 5 minutes. Ta-da! The porridge is ready! Keep the lid closed if you would like to have thicker porridge. If you are using pot on stove, keep stirring your porridge and mind your heat to prevent burnt porridge. If you are using a multifunction rice cooker, press the button which says porridge. Our porridge is usually savory. We add vegetables and meat into our porridge. Sometimes we add ginger, which we believe in the health benefits that this magic plant brings to us. The porridge is ready. Look at its consistency. It is thick, but you still can see the grains. Perfect for IDDSI level 5, which is mince and moist. Enjoy your porridge while it is still warm, because that is the perfect way to indulge it. These are examples of porridge that were brought by caretakers of patients who had dysphagia. Although porridge is known for being sick people's food, due to its characteristics of easy to digest and require less effort to chew and swallow. However, not all dysphagia patients can swallow this porridge safely. This series of pictures were taken from the recording of a flexible endoscopic examination of swallowing, which is also known as feast, on a 65-year-old gentleman while he was eating Kanji. This patient was diagnosed with left basal ganglia bleed with right hemiparesis, and molars were absent. He was also presented with oral motor weakness, which led to poor oral lingual control and resulted in inadequate bolus formation. This picture shows that the patient had delayed in initiation of swallowing. This picture shows the condition in the patient's larynx after swallowing. We can observe that the rice granules penetrated into the laryngeal vestibule and the patient aspirated on it. Post-swallow residue was mostly found on the variculae, some on the laryngeal vestibule, and some on piriform sinus. The next case is an 81-year-old gentleman with underlying hypertension. He had cerebral infarct 2 years ago prior to his recent admission due to dengue encephalitis and pulmonary tuberculosis treatment. He was on normal diet before this admission. He was fed through nasogastric tube since admission, but caregiver fed him Kanji orally. Caretaker reported that he only coughed occasionally during meals. However, he was reported to have persistent cough while drinking water. Clinically, he had lost most of his teeth except a few incisors. Dentures are not available during the session. In terms of cognitive ability, the patient had difficulty retaining new information, and he was totally dependent on daily activities. In this video, he was presented with severe delayed pharyngeal swallows and aspirated on Kanji with mixed consistency range from IDDSI level 3 to 5. No signs of aspiration was observed on Kanji at level 4, which is period, but valvular residue was observed. He was unable to clear his residue with compensatory strategy that was being introduced. Cyclic ingestion was attempted, but he aspirated on the liquid that was being given. Dry swallow seemed to reduce the amount of pharyngeal residue, but consistent verbal prompts must be presented to elicit this patient's behavior. In terms of clearance of aspirated food and/or liquids, even though patient had well-functioning and adequately compensating vocal cords, patient showed delay in triggering cough responses to clear aspirated materials. With impaired swallowing physiology, complicated with underlying issues in cognition, swallowing rehabilitation was challenging for this patient.
Thank you to all our speakers. This marks the last section of our webinar. We just want to highlight some take-home messages for you all to remember. As you can see from our different presentations, congee or rice porridge, they do come in different texture and consistencies. For patients with dysphagia, they may be at risk of aspiration if we give them congee that is of mixed consistencies. Therefore, we recommend that instrumental swallowing assessments may be necessary when we want to prescribe a diet that may include congee. It is also very important to educate our carers and patients about the different types of congee available and how they may pose different types of aspiration threat to our patients. I would like to acknowledge again all the speakers of this webinar. Thank you to members from the Hong Kong, Malaysia, Singapore, and Taiwan IDDSI reference groups. We hope that you have enjoyed our Rice Porridge Around the World webinar. Please do send us feedback through the different IDDSI reference group. Thank you and goodbye.